today we have on Christina McDonald on Help My Workout, and you are our first guest for this video podcast. So welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we appreciate you being here today. So today we're going to go over some questions. I know you've mentioned to me you've had some situations with your eating, your nutrition, your working out, not kind of being on task with everything. So tell me a little bit about your situation.
Sure. So I used to have a routine, working out about 4 to 5 times a week. At some point, that changed to 2 to 3 days a week. And now I've found myself working out 1 to 2 times a week at best. Anyone who has been in a workout routine and found themselves falling behind knows that it's really hard to get back into that routine once you've fallen behind too long. Um, the excuses follow, and before you know it, you don't have a routine anymore. So that's kind of where I have found myself now. Of course, work plays a part in that. But I'm kind of in the excuses zone, is what I like to call it.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's hard to get out of that zone once you get into it.
yep, sure is.
Getting remotivated. Okay. So I know you're working from home. The whole COVID situation has been an effect for many people when it comes to eating right and getting out and exercising. But what are the major barriers? What are the things you feel like you can make changes with in the next week or two or within the next month? Like, what are the main things you feel like you can focus on and start making some headway and changing?
Sure. I'm not going to sugarcoat it by giving a bunch of excuses. The truth is I'm just not making the time to take the action.
Got you.
Work obviously plays a part. After a long day, I just want to relax.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've tried the morning workouts, but found that they weren't really for me. I get really exhausted by like 2 or 3 o'clock in the day when I get up super early to do a workout.
Okay.
And I enjoy getting out the stress, the day-to-day stress from a long work day at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I've always enjoyed doing that following, a long work day.
Got you.
I just need to make it happen. It's also helpful when your husband or wife, your spouse, are kind of on the same page. And both myself and my wife have fallen a bit behind. So, not saying that it's her fault for where I'm at, but
Right.
it certainly helps when we're both on board to find that motivation and do it together. As far as what I could see in the next, say, 2 to 4 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps making sure that I'm making it work twice a week. I think that maybe high intensity training type of workout might be good, and that way it's not for as long, like maybe a
Mm-hmm.
high intensity 15 to 20-minute workout. And it's also helpful for me with anything in my life to put things on the calendar. So I think that it might be helpful if I actually like put specific days, carving out the time so that I don't
Mm-hmm.
find myself making those excuses.
Right. It's important.
Sure. Yep. Subtle changes to my diet as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I've told you before, I work best when I take baby steps. I find that I'm more successful when I take little changes at a time as opposed to too many changes all at once. So maybe some subtle changes to my diet and just making sure that at least that 2 times a week is happening.
Right. Also, so you pretty much know the answers. You're not new to exercise. You're a former client of Fit and Functional here. You're currently
Yep.
in Atlanta. You've been there for a while. So we know that you're not new to the whole game of eating right and exercising. It's a matter of just getting back on track for yourself and figuring out the best way to do that so you can stick with it long term.
Yep.
And like I said, you pretty much have given yourself the solutions, to your current situation. The key is like starting taking action on those solutions. And again, for yourself, taking those baby steps, thing that you can hold on to and grow with and build on. Okay.
Yep.
So evening workouts you mentioned will probably be the best for you. That's your ideal time for you, twice a week. So again, looking at your calendar, like you said, put 2 days of the week on your calendar that you're going to have those set workout times, and just stick to it. A big part of it, is like you mentioned, is speaking with your spouse and just seeing like where you guys can compromise on where you're both getting what you want. I know you have your own goals, and she may have her own goals, but you need to also see what you guys can do together to make sure you guys are both achieving, what you want. And that's a conversation that you could put on your calendar to have as well, because that's going to be. I think you mentioned, outside of this about the whole eating situation, especially at dinner time, having
Hmm.
different things that you both enjoy, and not actually satisfying like what your needs and wants are. So it's talking about those things is very important, and being on the same page, and then actually working together and achieving whatever you need to achieve. So I would put that highly on the list. Having that communication and planning together.
Yep.
It's always great to have that support on both sides, no matter what the goal or situation may be. Just having two people come together and working towards a goal. Either it's a mutual goal or separate goals, but being on the same page, knowing what needs to be in place.
Yep.
So as far as like doing the workouts, you put it on your calendar for twice a week. You mentioned doing some more like short workouts, like high intensity, where you get that burst, that workout, and you're done in 20-30 minutes max. That sounds great. I'm not sure how long it's been since you've been out of the workout game, but you might want to build your way back into it, and slowly progress into how high of intensity a workout you may be doing.
Right.
um, and in this day and age, there's tons of opportunities of ways to exercise, even from your home. uh, it's endless, the different options there are for doing home workouts and different types of programs that you can just do in your own bedroom or living room, whatever it may be. So it's
Hmm.
looking at I guess initially like looking at what that's out there for yourself, and then determining like what you feel is a good way to start in that. And you
Sure.
may test a couple of different things out um, for yourself and see what works best. Because you always want to make sure that you're doing something that you're enjoying, so you're going to stick with it a longer period of time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, so tell me about your, other nutritional things for us, like your water intake, and what do you have any issues with, getting those things in as well?
Yeah. So as far as water, I have to admit I've never really been good about drinking enough. What is it? Maybe 8 glasses a day. I think is kind of the rule of thumb. I may be wrong on that. Um, I I make it a point to have coffee every morning, and I need to make sure that I'm making it a habit to have enough water every day. So, kind of just thinking through some of the things that I needed to work on for us to talk about today. I was thinking about, perhaps I should get a water jug that has exactly how much water I need to have throughout my entire day, and that way I know that once it's done, at least I've gotten what I need.
Right.
Kind of as a guideline for myself. I typically have, kind of embarrassed to say, probably more like 2 to 3 cups a day. So
Gotcha.
obviously I need to work on that for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That's going to be really important, and that's an issue that many people face, is getting the proper amount of water intake. And it depends on your body size, how much muscle tone you have, how active you are, on the amount of water you need per day, and if you're male or female. But generally, minimum of the eight to 7, I'm sorry, 8 to 10 glasses a day, anywhere from 64 up to 120 ounces. And again, the more
Okay.
muscle tone that you have, the more active you have, you're going to want to increase that, be more up above that 100 to like 120 range of water
Okay.
intake, especially if you're having coffee in the morning. Coffee, as is a diuretic, also very
Mhm.
acidic for your system. So you want to make sure you're getting a sufficient amount of water to kind of combat that as well.
Sure.
Okay.
I would say in terms of other things that I need to work on with my diet, sweets have always been, kind of a problem for me. It's something that as a child we would sit around, have ice cream in the evenings, and grandmother often made desserts. And I think a lot of people, if you grew up that way, sometimes it's kind of hard to kick it. But I have been in a place where I did cut my sweets, and I know that once you cut them, you don't crave them quite as much.
Right.
Um, we try to keep what we call bad sweets out of the house as much as possible. Things such as, cookies or cake or whatever the case, even really sweet, cereals, and try to keep more things more like yogurt or oatmeal or fruit. Um, I try to keep those bad sweets out of the house as much, but I still find myself going towards them, especially now we're approaching the holidays. So I'd love to get your suggestions, and I'm sure a lot of people have the same problem. October is a big birthday month for us and our family. And so there's cake and celebration. And then you've got November when, there's Thanksgiving and most people overeat during that time and don't have maybe the most healthiest foods. And then there's
Mhm.
Christmas.
Right.
So a lot of temptation on the horizon. What kind of suggestions do you have for myself or anyone as we approach the holidays?
Okay, yeah, the holidays can be a pretty tough time, especially if you enjoy treating yourself throughout the holidays. It's a long season, especially if you're having birthdays starting in October and then going into Thanksgiving and then Christmas and New Year's. That's a pretty long stint of just kind of going at it for us, like having bad nutrition and eating, um, sweets basically. But the best thing it comes down to is like getting started before that starts approaching, which is now. So start getting that plan together for yourself, setting that schedule, make that shopping list of those healthy items. So when those times come, you're already active and doing the proper things that are in place. The key is to stay on that track as much as possible. Uh, but at the same time allowing yourself to like indulge a little bit, through especially if birthdays or Thanksgiving on those specific days, allowing yourself to treat yourself to whatever it may be. But beyond those and outside that time frame, you kind of stake on your path that you've created prior to those times coming up. So already,
Sure.
so you have that set vision and that goal. So like if you're starting now, like say, by the beginning of the year or after Christmas, I want to maintain or, drop 5 to 10 pounds. Most people put on anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds through the holiday season. So if you can even just, maintain without putting anything on, that's a win in itself as well.
Right. Do you have any suggestions as far as certain things, obviously fruit, things that people could eat to help kind of satisfy those cravings if you're really jonesing for it?
Yeah, I mean that becomes a matter of habit. Like you mentioned earlier, like it's like once you start cutting things out, the longer you go without having it, the less you're going to crave it. So
Right.
again, you can look at sort of certain alternatives. Everybody's a little bit different, depends on like what they like, what they don't like. But fruit is always a good, healthy solution or choice to go to in place of something that is that's sweet or pastries or anything like that or candy maybe. But looking at fruits, different like little treats, you can just make in the evening time, like a bowl of berries. If you want to even put a little bit of like a little whipped cream on top of that, that's completely fine. That's a lot better than having ice cream and a piece of chocolate cake at 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
So it's just looking at the key is like to make a list for yourself. Like I say, everyone's different. So make a list for yourself. Like these are the healthy things that I enjoy that satisfy me, and you kind of just go off that list. Like so, whenever I feel like when you're having a treat, you go to that list and you kind of design your week or your day. Um, when you're wanting those things, sweet wise, to go to those items and have those items are really ready and available for yourself, like at your house, and then staying away from actually buying those other things. So eventually, if you can do that over, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then your cravings will become more towards those healthier sweet items versus the things you've been craving in the past.
Sure. Great idea.
Yeah.
I would say, lastly, something that I know I probably would need to work on is decrease in alcohol.
Right.
I've talked to a lot of friends, and there's been a lot of conversations around, jokingly about how because of the pandemic, a lot of people have been home more, trying to get a little bit more creative with what they're doing with their time. For a while, we were on lockdown, we weren't going anywhere, and we are still not going to restaurants even now. trying to stay away from crowds as much as possible.
Hmm.
But with spring and summer and being home more and hanging out with friends at grill outs and pool, alcohol is involved a lot of times.
Hmm.
We have found ourselves drinking a little bit more than we used to,
Right.
where it used to be maybe twice a week, and now it's maybe 4 times a week.
Got
And,
you.
you know, are we drinking excessively each time? No, not necessarily, but we are finding ourselves drinking more than we used to, and um, we enjoy beer. I like
Hmm.
craft beer. And of course, that's full of carbs and calories. And so that's something I know I need to cut back on. Um, that's something that I need to work on as well. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one when it comes to alcohol, the beer, the wine, whatever it may be. That's a usually when it comes to if you're like wanting to lose like 5 to 10 pounds or losing any amount of weight, the alcohol, if you're having that, throughout the week, 3, 4, 5 days out of the week, you really want to like look at addressing that because that's going to make it tough. Even if you make some other adjustments, that alcohol intake is pretty huge when it comes to weight retention, and because it also plays into your level of hydration through the course of the day. So if you're having alcohol in the evening and you're drinking coffee in the morning, I mean your hydration level is very going to be pretty bad, very low, and that plays a strong effect on how well your body metabolizes, how well it is able to actually burn off fat. So those are the things you really want to like kind of like address and kind of like nip in the bud as soon as possible.
sure.
So again, it comes just into it really it's a habit that people get into, and the key is like how do you work on breaking that habit. So again, it's if you're getting into a workout program, if you're doing twice a week, if you're doing that in the evening time, most likely you're not going to want any alcohol or beer, whatever it may be, like after you do a strong, high intensity workout.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so getting back on the workout program may just help that situation within itself. Um, but again, it's just making that conscious effort to say, hey, this is my goal, like for the next 3 months. By the end of December, I want to like be at this level, or and then just sticking to your guns. Having that strong willpower and frame of mind. Say, this is more important to me than that you know, glass of beer, whatever it may be. And then it comes down to like your partner having the same mindset and working with each other to like, hey, we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to do this. Or remember we said we have a goal for this week. Then all right, so it's pushing each other to like, hey, let's work together and let's get through this without um, backsliding. So if that
Right.
makes sense to you.
Holding ourselves accountable to
Right.
one another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of suggestions do you have? I had mentioned to you, that my spouse is a picky eater,
Right.
and don't get me wrong, again, not blaming her for my bad habits, but
Right.
I think anyone, with a significant other, if they have certain habits, a lot of times that kind of, that brushes off on you a little bit.
Hmm.
It's a little harder. I love healthy foods. I actually don't just eat them because I have to. I enjoy most all vegetables,
Hmm.
most all fruits. Um, but it's hard to eat that way when you're not both on board.
Right.
And I'm from the South. And I don't know if that's necessarily a Southern thing, but I grew up, parents and grandparents would make a meat and they would have a starch and they may have rolls and then a vegetable.
Hmm.
And so we typically will have some sort of starch, whether it's a pasta or bread, and then we'll have our meat. We
Right.
do eat mostly ground turkey. We don't eat tons of red meat, which I know everyone kind of has their own opinion on that.
Right.
And a lot of seafood. So I will say that we do eat a lot of lean type of meats, which is good.
Hmm.
But she enjoys canned vegetables. I like fresh vegetables. So a lot of times I will make my own separate vegetables,
Right.
but the main course of our meal is usually the same.
Gotcha.
So what kind of, what kind of suggestions do you have with people that are kind of in my same boat? Because obviously I don't want to make two completely separate dishes.
Right.
Um, yeah, I want it to be something we can both enjoy.
Right.
Um, so what kind of suggestions would you have for us as
Okay. I
far
guess
as that?
when it comes down to that situation when you both have like a little different, taste or appeal on certain things that you're eating, then looking at common ground again. It may be like, hey, let's look at a couple of different types of recipes that involve, vegetables, and maybe coming up with a few different dishes that are satisfying to her that are not canned that you and her and then she enjoys as well. So I always say like doing a little bit of experimenting and just seeing like what's out there. And just again, there's tons of information stuff when it comes to like food preparation. Um, just seeing what works. I'm sure there's definitely like more than one thing that you guys can probably agree on when it comes to how you prepare your vegetables within itself.
Mhm.
Um, but again, it just comes down to that communication and then maybe making a fun activity out of it. Like, hey, I found this particular recipe that involves whatever it may be, and let's try it. If it's sautéed a certain way or prepared a certain way that's appealing, there may be certain seasonings that she enjoys
Mhm.
that's on more fresh vegetables that's prepared or steamed. So maybe options like that would be my suggestion if you guys want to get on like the same page where you're not preparing two different completely meals, but just doing
Right.
a little bit more experimenting and seeing what you guys do have in common when it comes to that particular thing.
Sure. Yeah. I know we need to eat more whole foods and less of the canned and boxed kinds of things.
Right.
I don't typically like, I don't really like canned vegetables unless it's corn.
Right.
So that's not an issue for me. And she does like some fresh vegetables. It's just very, very limited selection.
Yeah.
But we do eat a lot of like boxed goods,
Right.
and I know that we probably need to do a little bit more research on I love cauliflower rice,
Right.
but she doesn't like cauliflower.
Mhm.
So, it's little things like that, but like you said, it's just experimenting and finding kind of a good common ground between
Yeah.
the two of us
Exactly.
that we need to work on.
Mhm. And
Right.
another option is like preparing enough ahead of time. If you don't mind eating, you know, meals that are prepared, 2 or 3 days before. If you can
Yeah.
make enough, cauliflower, whatever particular vegetables that you like, make enough in advance, so that way you're not having to prepare each time.
Right. That's what I do a
So,
lot of times because usually if I'm making my own vegetable, it's probably like 3 dinners worth.
right. Okay.
you know.
Exactly.
So I do normally have a vegetable that I can have, the next day, that's already prepared. So,
Yeah. All right. Great. Cool.
what are your thoughts on the keto diet? Just
Um,
I know
I
anything.
have various thoughts. I don't want to get too much into like the whole dietetics and nutrition stuff, but it depends on how long you're doing it, how involved it is. Um, depending on, I mean, different diets or ways of eating works for different people. I mean, individual can do, different types of nutritional plans that may help them lose weight as long as they stick to it. I mean, the thing is like they're changing their old habits, which normally are bad. So if you're going to any like new habit that's better for you, it being keto or it being, more of a vegan type of diet, you're making most cases you're making positive changes either way, so you're going to see results. um,
Hmm.
but it depends on like long term how deep you're into that particular diet may affect you certain ways, and it depends on your activity level as well. So that's really hard to give one point of view on for a particular type of diet.
Sure. It's been appealing to us because some of the things that I've read, the things that you can eat, or alternatives, are things that I think would be very doable
Mhm.
for her
Right.
and myself. And so, we've considered that, but I think the biggest thing right now would just be taking these baby steps, like you said, and finding a common ground,
Mhm.
between the two of us, and then, um, having consistency, even if they're small changes, and continuing with them.
Right. Exactly. So the whole key is like looking at what's positive and healthy for you and for her as well, and just again making a game plan and just sticking on that plan as long as possible. And of course, you can change it up whenever you need to change it up for something a little bit more, um, advanced or whatever it may be that you're looking for.
Sure.
Cool. All right, Christina. Well, I appreciate you being on the day with us. on Help My Workout, our very first guest. Congratulations on that. And hopefully that this talk and conversation was helpful for you.
Was,
And
thank you.
and if you have any other things, you can always reach out to me as well. You know that though already. So
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sherman. I enjoyed it.
all right, thank you, Christina. Have a
Have a great
great
day.
day. All right, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.